Hi everyone, Sarah here from Sarah Homfray Embroidery. Welcome to my channel. We are up and running again. If you follow us every Friday, we haven't had a video for a few weeks because poor Jonathan, who edits our videos, has not been very well, but he is better now. He's behind the camera. Do you want to say hello?
Hello.
So lots of you have sent in really nice messages asking after him and how he's doing, and he's good now, so thank you very much for those. It was very kind of you. So just before we have a look at the needle lace, I've got some super thanks to say thank you to. So the people who have clicked the button, it looks a little bit like this, below the videos, and shown your support for all these videos that we make for you. So I've got to say thank you to Vicky, Margaret, Katie, Annie and Crowley FCNS. I'm sorry I don't know what your name is, but thank you very much for your support. It's really appreciated. So we're looking at needle lace today, as I mentioned, and there's lots of stages to this. So what I thought we would do is just start right at the basics. I'll show you 3 different stitches that you can do and how you form the stitch and how you put it down on your fabric. And then we're going to do another video as well. We're going to do this little teddy bear project here, and we're going to show you how to make different shapes with your needle lace and how to lift them off the surface of the fabric and apply them to something else. So do look out for that one, that's coming next, but I do recommend you study this one first and follow along with this one to see how to make the needle lace stitches. So if you happen to have this book, this is the Encyclopedia of Needlework by Therese De Dillmont. This is a DMC book. It's a very old book now, but you still can get copies of this. Look in the charity or Goodwill shops and see if you can find one of these, because she's got loads and loads of stitches, needle lace stitches in here. There are about 40 of them, and we're just going to do 3 today. So it is well worth a look. If you can't get a hold of this copy, can't get a copy of this, you can get it online. You can get the whole book online. We will put a link in the description below this video to that, so everybody has got access to it. Do check it out if you're interested in this technique, because there's loads more in this book. If you stick around to the end, I'll have a little flick through this and I'll show you some of them on the camera. So I'm just going to show you the actual stitches today, but I have done it on a little teddy bear design here because I just thought it's nice to do it on something and you can see how it looks when it's on an actual piece of embroidery. If you want to have a go at the teddy bears, I've done you a free PDF. You can get this from the website, from the free stuff page. I'll put a link to this down below as well, and you can just print that off and have a go at the teddy bears, because it's quite fun to have a go on an actual design. And if you don't want to do needle lace on it, you can use this design for lots of other techniques as well. So that will be on the website for you for free. So the first stitch that I want to show you is the simplest stitch, and it's the one that forms all of the other stitches as well. And if you've done other kind of embroidery, you might have done this stitch. So needle lace is basically used with a buttonhole stitch. If you don't know how to do a buttonhole stitch, we do have that one in our stitch library as well, so do go and check that one out for all the fundamentals on this stitch. But they're all constructed using that stitch, so we're just going to do the simplest one. And what we need to do first is to put a little outline around it. So I'm going to work on this little pink teddy bear here. And we're going to work it in this shape here. Now, needle lace is formed independently of the fabric. It doesn't go through the fabric. It's not attached with the stitches through the fabric, just at the edges. So we're going to work an outline around this shape here, so we can work our needle lace around that outline. Now, if we're going to detach the shapes like we're going to do in the next video, we do something slightly different, but I'll show you that in this video. This is just to show you how to form the stitches. So all I'm going to do with this, let's put my knot there, is put a little knot on the top. That's a waist knot that will get cut off later. And do 2 tiny little stab stitches straight up and straight back down. That secures the end of the thread. And then we can just start stitching, and when we get to it we can cut the knot off. So just a really good way of starting and finishing your stitches. So all I'm going to do around here is a back stitch. So we've got some solid stitching to work our needle lace around. Now I'm using a perle thread for this. You can do needle lace in anything that you like, and it depends on the size of the needle lace that you want to do. You can do very, very fine needle lace. And if you saw my stump work, all about stump work video, you will have seen my William the Conqueror in there, and he's got little needle lace socks and some clothing as well, and that's really fine. So you can do this any scale you want really. So if you want to do it smaller, make your thread a bit smaller. This perle is really good for practicing. If you want to have a go at this, you've never tried it, something that doesn't strand or come apart will make it just that little bit easier. So I'm just going to demonstrate in this. I will show you in a stranded cotton for the next one. So I'm just doing a back stitch up ahead, back down there. Try and get your stitches nice and even, because we're going to work the needle lace around these stitches, so you don't want them too close together. So I'm just going to go all the way around there, and then I'll show you the next part. So we've been all the way around it, and I've just zoomed in so you can have a look at the next bit quite closely. So I've got another thread, a separate thread, a new thread. I'm going to start that one off just again on the top. And what we need to do with this thread is to come up near the top, and we're going to work down the shape. So I'm going to just come up through here, and then I'm just going to wrap it around a couple of these back stitches just to get it started off. And I'm going to come out about there. Let's just cut the knot out of the way. Got that thread started. So my first row is kind of going to go across the top like that. So you don't want to come out right near the top. We need to leave room to make the buttonhole stitches. So I've come out on the edge there, and then all I'm going to do is to take my needle underneath that first back stitch there. Now I'm using a tapestry needle. All of this will be worked on the top of the fabric, so you don't really want a sharp point on your needle. You get caught up in the fibres of the fabric. So if you can use a tapestry needle, that's a needle with a blunt end on it, then that will really help you out. So I'm going to come under there like so. Oh, it's got caught around the eyes of the next teddy bear. And I've made that loop, and I've come inside the loop. So this is forming a buttonhole stitch. Don't worry, I'll do this a lot more times, so don't worry if I haven't got it on the first one. Don't pull it too tight, because we want to make this nice lacy pattern. Needle lace was an easier way of making an imitation normal lace, but without all the bobbins. It's just a needle and just a thread, and you can make this imitation lace just using those few things. So we're going to go underneath the next one there. You can see this loop, just holding that down, coming up inside the loop. I'm going to go slowly, and we make the second buttonhole. Don't pull it too tightly underneath the first, and you can see how easy that needle is sliding under there because it hasn't got that sharp point on it. And I think we'll get one more in. You want to make straight rows. This works in straight rows, so you want to keep those going as much as possible. So now I've got to the other side of the shape that I'm working, and we need to come back the other way. So what I'm going to do with it now is to take my needle underneath from the middle out to the edge, like so, and you'll see what happens when I pull that down. Just finishes that row off nice and neatly. And then we're going to go back the other way. So if you're left-handed, it doesn't really matter. It's one of these stitches that doesn't matter, because we're going to go left to right, and then we're going to go right to left. So we're going to reverse the stitch. So right-handed or left-handed, this is all the same, this one. So I like to try and do a left-handed version if I can, but it is the same for this, because we're now going to go back and do it the left-handed way. So left-handers will have to do it like a right-hander would, and vice versa. I'm just going to go under that again, so I'm going around it twice. Now that just makes it secure, and that also moves down the shape, so we can do our next row a little bit lower. So now we're going to come across the shape, and that's where our row will sit, and we're going to do buttonhole the other way. So I'm still going to make my loop, and now we're going to fasten the next row to the previous row. So we're going to look for that little loop that we made of our buttonhole. It's there. Don't worry too much if you don't find it. You won't be able to see it, and it takes a little bit of practice to just work out which is the right loop. So I'm going again underneath that from the outside to the inside my loop, and that forms the next stitch. So we make a loop with our thread. This now goes clockwise. We find that loop from the previous row there from my buttonhole. And when you get a couple of rows in, it will start to make a little bit more sense. You'll be able to see that pattern start to form. And this stitch, by the way, is called a Brussels, single Brussels stitch. Now the reason I looked at that then is because it's got some other names as well. So in the DMC Encyclopedia of Needlework book, they call it tulle stitch, and you may also see it called buttonhole filling for obvious reasons, but I know it as single Brussels because there are other Brussels as well. That's coming up in a minute. So single Brussels stitch. So you're just taking that loop from the previous buttonhole, coming up inside it and pulling it nice and securely. So it's all about tension and trying to get a nice even tension throughout. That just takes practice. Don't get cross with yourself if you can't do that straight away. It takes practice. So I've got to the end. I'm going to slide underneath that stitch there to secure the end of that row. I'm going to go back under it again, so it's the inside of the circle to the outside. We're moving down that shape, and then back we go again. So we have to now find that little stitch there, and you can see now if I just pull on that, you can see it start to open up a bit, and you can see easily where that hole is. So you just have to get going really to see it. This isn't the neatest needle lace stitch, it's not the easiest to do, this one, but it is the simplest in that this forms the basis for all the other ones. So it's worth having a go at this one first, just to get the hang of it, just to get in the stride of it. So we're underneath there, finish that row off. Let's go round it again. Like so, and then we go back the other way. So now I'm going to make that loop the other way, pick up underneath there, and if you just hold that down out the way, just put a little bit of tension on it, you can just see that open up a little bit, and it's easier to get your needle in. So the more you get in, the easier it is to do, which is good. Quite hard to get the tension nice and even. That will just come with practice. So do a little practice sample first. Back to the other side, underneath once, underneath again, just a little bit of extra security on your thread, and we're going to go back the other way. So I'm going to do a little bit more of this, and then I'll show you how to finish it off at the bottom. So I've just got one more row to do and show you how to finish that one off. I have had to start a new thread here. You can see where the change of colour is. I'll show you how you can change to a new thread in the next teddy bear, but let's just show you how to finish off first. So we're going to finish like we started, and we're going to go around the bottom row of that back stitch there. So I'm actually going to use that. So I've been around here twice, and you're picking up the loop from that previous row buttonhole, and also going underneath that back stitch there like so, and that will just pull it down to the bottom. So going around the two, and you can see how that's pulling the needle lace down now, and it just finishes it off. And I'm only going to need 3 stitches. It's got narrower at the bottom, so just put the stitches in where you need them like so, and then I can just take that through to the back and finish it off. Now you can either weave that under the stitches on the back, or you can also do it under the stitches at the top, because there is another stage to this just to finish that off and make it look nice and neat and tidy. But I'm going to show you that on the last teddy bear when we get to the end, because I just want to zoom out on this now, show you what that looks like all together, and just talk through how I did the first teddy bear. So here's our single Brussels needle lace here in its tummy here, and it looks really lovely actually. And you can see how lacy it looks. You can see why this was a version of lace, an easier, cheaper version of lace, and didn't need all those bobbins and all that expert knowledge, so it was much easier to do. So it looks really, really cute in there. I've used a variegated thread, so it's changed colour throughout. And I'll just talk through the rest of the bear quickly if you want to have a go at the teddy bear as a whole. So I've just started with a really simple stitch around him. I've just done a back stitch all the way around him. Really, really simple stitch to do, just to give that nice shape of the bear. And I brought this pink in throughout as well. So I've done little satin stitch pads on his feet here. One's going that way, one's going that way. If you do something symmetrical, sometimes it's nice to flip your stitch, so you've got that symmetry in your stitch there. I put some sequins on for his toe pads. Just match those sequins there. His ears, they've got the back stitch around the edge, and just a little kind of half a eyelet stitch there really. We've got all these stitches in the stitch library, and we'll put a link up to that at the end of the video for you. A little bit of satin stitch for his nose, some back stitch for his lips and his little mouth there, and then you just found some big black beads for his eyes to give him that nice teddy bear look. So some really simple stitches, and you can just put them together and make a finished embroidery. So I will show you how I've done the next two as well, because they are slightly different. So for the second stitch I want to show you, the clue is in the name of the first stitch. So the first stitch is single Brussels stitch. So now we are going to do double Brussels stitch. So I'm just going to talk through the teddy bear first while he's here. So I've done my back stitch around his tummy there. That's what we're going to work the needle lace around. And for this one, I've done a different stitch around the edge of him. So I've now done a stem stitch around, and that just comes up a little bit higher from the fabric, a little bit more depth in that, so that's a fun one to have a go at. And I've just gone around him all in the stem stitch. I've done some eyelets here in his feet, and again the sequins, different size sequins to give a little bit of effect of the different shape of his feet. And in his ears I have done the stem stitch around here, and I filled it with some French knots. If French knots are your nemesis, do check out our Ultimate Guide to French Knot videos. You will love them after you've seen that video. And again, I've just done his face in the same way, so some satin stitch, some back stitch, and the 2 beads for his eyes. So you can switch your stitches up, and you can get as creative as you like with this. If you're a beginner, you can just start with a back stitch. If you're a bit more advanced, you can pick some stitches that you like and try your teddy bear with those. So I'm just going to zoom into his tummy again, and we'll have a look at the double Brussels stitch. I just want to mention at this point that it is worth practicing this stitch. I don't have all these stitches at my fingertips myself. I've had to practice these to have a go and see what threads I want to use and what works. And this is my little sampler. I talk a lot about sampling in my work and how important it is. We have a whole video on what it is and how you should do it and why you should do it. So do check that one out. Don't just go straight into something and think I'm going to have a go at this on my finished piece, because without a little bit of practice you might get a little bit frustrated, and then that would be a shame if you didn't finish it. So just practice first. Try some different threads out, try some different size threads, some different patterns, see what you like. I'll put this under the camera here so you can see that. So this is my sampler. It's not very beautiful. It doesn't have to be beautiful. It's a working piece for you to try things out and to test things and to see what you like. And you can see here I just tried some straight bits just to try the threads and see what the different threads look like. So different colours here. You can see how it's not attached to the fabric. That's actually quite a good example of that. So it's just attached at the sides. So that's what the needle lace does. And I've tried this oval shape here, tried some of these different stitches. You don't have to finish it. None of these ends are finished. Just a little working sample for me to try it out. So I do recommend that you do that with your pieces, especially if you've never had a go at this before. Do just get a scrap of fabric and try something first before you go on to a finished piece. So we're going to do this double Brussels stitch in a different thread now. So I've got a stranded cotton or a stranded floss, depending on where you are in the world, and I've actually stranded this down. So I've just got 3 of the 6 strands that I am going to use, because I just want to see if we can make that beautiful pattern show up so you can see what I'm doing. If I do it in 6, I think it's all going to get a little bit lost. So we'll try it in 3. Put a knot in the end there, and I'm starting it this way because this is useful when it comes to making these pieces that you're going to lift off and separate and you can apply to something. This is the way you would start your thread off then. If you just want to weave it through some stitches on the back at this stage, that's absolutely fine, but I just thought this was a good method to show you because this comes into it later. So I've just put my knot on the top out the way. That will get cut off, come up between 2 of those back stitches. I'm just going to weave it underneath up to the top. So we're going to start the same way. We need to be near the top of the shape for this one. You can just pull it across. I'm going to go one more, I think, like so. So we start this one exactly the same way. We need to make a base of buttonhole stitches for you to work through. So out from the outside into the middle, inside that loop, just forms that little loop there for us to stitch through. So don't pull it too tight. If you're a bit stressed, do some breathing exercises first, because if you pull this one tight, it just screws up really tightly and you can see it. So you need to be nice and relaxed to do this. So let's just go across. First, we'll do one more, like so. So there's our first row. So inside to outside underneath that edge there, that will just hold that first row down like that. And it actually come under the next one. So the second one, do that to secure it. Then we're going to go back the other way as we did before. Find that little loop from the previous stitch. And what we do now is we're doing a double Brussels. So we're going to go through the same loop twice. So the single we just went through once, now we're going to go through twice, and that should give us a bit more of an open lacy effect. You won't see it on the first row, it takes a little bit just to get it going. So just bear with me while I do a few rows of this, so twice through the same loop. So once, twice. If you actually pull down on that, it should open that loop up and make it nice and easy to get through. Make sure you come up inside that loop or your buttonhole won't form. I'm going to cut that knot off. Once you've started our thread and done a few stitches, you can just cut your waist knot off out of the way. Don't have to fight it. So there's my next loop there. So once, single, twice for double, and then there's the last one on the top row, underneath there. Always go inside to outside when you're wrapping it around that edging. We go back the other way, so find that loop once, twice, once, twice. So it's starting to come now, and what we'll get is this larger hole here between the loops. Once, twice, and you can start to see it coming now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little bit further down the shape so you can see this pattern start to come, and then I also want to show you how to stop and start a thread, because you won't be able to have one thread that lasts all the way through, so that's really important. So I'm going to get a little bit further down, then I'll come back and show you. So I've got about a third of the way down, and I hope you can see that pattern now. It's quite a complex one compared to that first one, and I hope you can just see these little sort of holes in it. That's where you're between the stitches. It's a little bit hard to see until it's finished. If I just pull on it, you should be able to see. There we go. That's just opening up a bit. But I just want to show you how to change your thread, because you're going around twice this time and it uses a lot more thread. So you will need to change your thread. So I've gone around the outside a couple of times as if I was going back, but I'm just going to take that a little bit further down the shape to finish that off. This will get stitched over when we come down with the needle lace, and then I'm just going to take it through to the back. And we'll just get that out of the way and finish that off. And we're going to start the next one the same way. So you want to come up the same side so you have that back and forth pattern continuing. So I've got a new thread here, got a knot in the end. And I'm going to start the same way as I did before. So I'm just going to come up around here. Now, as I mentioned in the first one, there is another step involved in this needle lace, and that's what happens around this edge. So don't worry if it looks like it's a little bit uneven or it's getting a little bit thick, because we're going to do something with that on the third one. So I want to come up where I finished, so really want to come up that side, and then I'm ready to go across again. So it's very simple to start and finish your thread. Just think, I've got to make sure the end doesn't come undone. Weave it through for the finishing one, and for the new one weave it back up the same way, so you're starting where you finished previously, and then you can just carry on with your pattern. So just need to find that stitch there, a little bit harder near the edge. There's the hole there, so sink one, and a double one. So the hole, there's the hole. Just make sure you've got the right one, just take your time to do it. I'm going to continue all the way to the bottom, so I'm going to get this finished and then we'll have a little look at the finished piece. So you can start to see that pattern now after doing most of it. So you just have to stick with it and trust that it will come out. So you can see that now, how lacy that looks. It's really beautiful. If I just pull that down, you can see that open bit bit there with the 2 stitches in between, open 2 stitches. So it does take a little bit just to get the pattern going, and I'm going to finish it off now because what I want to do is pull that down so you can really see that stitch open up. So you just have to decide if you think it needs another row or not. I could maybe get away with one, but I'm just going to do that now just to pull that down and see that really nice lacy stitch. So we just need to find the 2. There we go. Underneath that bottom there, you can see how much it pulls it down actually. So underneath again for the second one. And then just take the needle straight down and it will find the right stitch to go under. It is a little bit more fiddly, this one, but again, it's just practice. There is the loop, straight down there. 1, 2. And that's pulled that really nicely there. So really see that pattern now. That looks lovely. And then just going to weave this underneath some of these edge stitches. This is another thing you can do rather than go round and round. We're just going to weave it under there and under there. So you can take it through to the back or just weave it on the top. I've got mine in these versatile table clamps, so it's easier for me to do it on the top. Just cut that off. And then that is our double Brussels needle weaving stitch. So the last one I want to show you is a corded buttonhole stitch. Now this one is easy to get neater. So those other 2 look really pretty, but they are quite difficult to get the tension right and to get the lace pattern looking nice and even. So this one will sort that problem out for you. And the other thing that this one does, it makes a nice solid piece of needle lace as well. So if you wanted something that wasn't see-through, that you couldn't see through the lace effect and a little bit more solid, this is a good one for that. So I've started it off because it's exactly the same as the other one. So I'm using a perlé thread again for this one, a nice variegated one that changes colour, and I've done my back stitch around the shape that I want to fill in. I've started off with my knot, woven it through. I'm going to start at the top because this part is exactly the same. I've got a slightly longer thread than I would usually have because we're going to put an extra stitch in this, so you will get through the thread quite quickly. Don't go crazy with the length of your thread because you'll just get it in a knot, but a little bit longer is fine. So I'm just going to start exactly the same way as I did before. So we pick up that first row of back stitch there and we just do our buttonhole around it, not pulling too tightly on it. We go all the way across to the other side. This is a good point to mention, by the way, if you're left-handed, you might want to do this the other way around. So start over here, weave up here and do your first row that way, because now we're going to go the same way each time. That will become obvious in a minute. But if you're left-handed, then just do the opposite to the way I'm doing it now. You might find that a little bit easier. So round and round twice, that bit's the same. But this bit is different. So what we're going to do now is put an extra stitch in. So I'm going to take that thread all the way across to the other side and just put a straight stitch. So we're going to go underneath there like so. And again, to secure it. Now this one does need to be nice and tight, so if you put the tension on that while you bring your second one through, that's quite nice and tight, because we're actually going to buttonhole around that now. So we're going to pick up that loop from the previous row just like we did before, but we're also now going underneath that stitch that we have just put in, and that's the cord of the corded buttonhole. And it makes it a little bit easier now because we've just got this straight line to follow. Basically, before you have to rely on your tension to get your stitches nice and neat, but now we can rely a little bit more on that cord there. One more in there, I think. Finish that off, so underneath. So we go buttonhole left to right if you're right-handed, go right to left if you're left, and then we put our cord in the opposite way. So we're always going the same way each time. So round, do that nice and tightly. And then we're going to buttonhole the same way each time. But other than that, it's the same. We're doing the single buttonhole now. But we've got that bar to go round. Just make sure you get the right hole. You can see that's quite neat already. So in a way, you might want to practice this one first. I just wanted to show you the single Brussels first because that gives you a good idea of how the stitch forms. But this one is a little bit neater to do. Oh, I've done that wrong, having just said that. I'll take that back a stitch, not paying attention. So we need to put the cord in. I was just going back and forth, a world of my own. But we caught it in time because we need to go the same way each time. So I'm on the right hand side, I'm going to put my cord in. Concentrate, Sarah. You do have to concentrate with needle lace. It can be a little bit fiddly, not one to do when you're tired. Right, now we're going buttonhole left to right, back on track. Talking at the same time. So underneath there, underneath the cord. Across to the other side. So, as I did with the other ones, I'm going to do a little bit more of that. I'm going to try and get it right. So you can see what it looks like properly. And then I want to do one more thing. I want to show you how to finish these shapes off. The edges can look a little bit messy because you're winding threads in and out, starting and finishing threads off. So there's one more thing we can do just to make that super nice and neat and tidy. So I'm going to get to the end of this and then I'm going to show you that. So you can see the pattern that this one makes with the cord in it. It's a little bit less lacy, but a little bit more solid. So great if you want one that fills in the shape and you can't see through. So I'm just going to show you how to finish that off. So there's my last cord, and we're going to go under there, under the cord and under the back stitch. So you're doing 3 things now. So 1, 2, 3. And that pulls that down and you get that really nice even stitch. It does look like a nice neat one, this one. And then one more, I think. Now, the thread does get a little bit twisted up when you do needle lace. So you can just untwist it. So under there, under there, and under there. A little bit fiddly at the end. There we go. And then to finish off this time, I'm just going to go underneath that edge there like so. This is a useful stage to know for the next part of the process where we start lifting these pieces off. Just going to cut that off there, and that is that corded buttonhole stitch finished. Now, if you remember right back to the beginning, I did say there's another stage that we can do to finish it off. Sometimes these edges don't look very neat, and this is a really good way to do to finish them off and to make them look a little bit neater. And we're just going to do the buttonhole stitch again, but we're going to go all the way around the edge. So I'm starting with a fresh piece of thread, and I'm just doing my knot and my 2 small starting stitches because this is right on the edge. It doesn't really matter where you start on an oval, somewhere near the bottom, so you can hide the beginning and the end. So I'm going to come up on the outside of the oval, going down on the inside like so. I make my loop, come up inside. It's exactly what we've been doing for all of these pieces, but now we're going to go through the fabric. So down into it, make the loop up inside, and we just work this buttonhole all the way around the edge now. Just cover up that edge that doesn't look particularly neat, however hard we try, and that will just give it a nice finishing off. So just going to go all the way around with the buttonhole. Again, if you're left-handed, go the opposite way. I'm going anti-clockwise, counterclockwise. If you go clockwise, you might find that a little bit easier. And you can see that pattern starting to come now and how neat that's going to make the edge look. So you don't need to see me do all of that. I shall go all the way around. We'll finish it off. We'll have a little look at the bear and see what he looks like finished. It's been all the way round. Just going to finish that off. So you just need to tie that last little bit down there. So we're just going to go down the other side of it, and that will just pull that down nice and securely to finish it. Do make sure you use a sharp needle to go through the fabric you're stitching through. Swap back from your tapestry. I've been using a chenille. needle for this. I can finish that on the back, so let's just have a little run through him. So we've got our needle lace in the middle with our buttonhole edging. I'm sure you can agree that's much neater. It's a really nice way just to finish that off and make that edge look super neat. He's got some sequins for his feet, and I've gone around him in chain stitch this time, so just changing the stitch up each time. This one's a little bit thicker, getting a bit more solid with this stitch, so chain stitch all the way around the edge, a little bit of chain stitch here and a star stitch inside his feet, and we've just got a chain stitch at the top and just some little straight stitches, like a little half eyelet if you like, and his face is the same, so it's easy just to switch some stitches up and make him look a little bit different. So just before I go, I want to show you the DMC book again. I'm just going to jump back to that because there's over 40 stitches, and I just want to show you where you can take this if you're interested in this technique. So the first one that's in the book is the single Brussels stitch here, or the buttonhole filling stitch, you might hear it called. So you can just see the single ones there, and the great thing about these diagrams, really good diagrams in here, is you can see clearly what it should look like and what you're aiming for, and you can see the pattern a little bit more clearly is the point I want to make, I guess. So there's the single one, there's the double one, so you're going twice through the loops. You can do a triple one, you can keep going with this, and the more you put in, the bigger the holes get and the more lacy the effects go, so you can just keep going with that. I'm just going to show you a few more because it goes on and on. So that's 4 through there, that one's got 5 through it, and it goes on, and you can see how this pattern changes a little bit. And just by changing the way that you do your stitches, they're all based around the buttonhole stitch, you can just get these amazing different effects here, just up to your imagination. Then there's a little nice plate there with a piece of needle lace. You can mix your stitches as well. I didn't mention that. You haven't got to do the same stitch all the way down. You can change if you want to halfway through, and it goes on and on. There's about 40 of these stitches, all a variation on a theme, and once you've learnt one, the rest are not too difficult. There's the corded one that we did here, so you're going around that cord, and you can see it gets quite a different effect on it. Some open ones, some ones with patterns in. It goes on and on. This is only the 30th. So I just wanted to give you a little idea of where you can take this, because there's so much you can do with this stitch. And this is just the basics. If you get the basics, everything else is based on this. So if you can do this, you can in theory have a go at lots more as well. So I hope you enjoyed that introduction to needle lace, inspired to have a go. If you are and you'd like to see where you can take this, then do look out for this little teddy bear project where I show you how to make different shapes out of your needle lace and how to make them detachable so you can attach them onto your embroidery. And do check out our stump work playlist here, which has got lots more samples of needle lace in there. You can see William the Conqueror and all the needle lace on that one as well. And if you've enjoyed this video, do give it a thumbs up, share the embroidery love, and I will see you next time.